Expect the worst, and you'll never be disappointed. I believe it was Benjamin Franklin who said that. Regardless of its point of origin, I can personally attest to its real-world utility. There's a concept I meant to bring up in another video, but which time and the narrative flow of that script wouldn't permit. And that is something I've elected to call bipolar signals. Not to be confused for mixed signals, which is where a person inadvertently sends two contradictory messages in a related context. Bipolar signals are one signal which can be indicative of several very different things. Easy example. You ask someone out on a date and they say they have other plans. They could be just soft rejecting you, or they may actually be otherwise engaged. The easiest way to tell which one is true is if they're genuinely interested but unavailable, they will suggest a different time. Or if it's your suggested activity that's put them off, they will offer an alternative. Pro tip: if you're a man asking a woman out and she says she's busy and doesn't suggest an alternative, do not take that as a sign to do it yourself. She will perceive it as desperate and needy, and any interest she may have had in you will vanish like a fly in a dust storm. But anyway, back on topic. The actual reason I mention this is because that's how I view the black pill. What we back in my day simply called pragmatic pessimism. Hope for the best, prepare for the worst. Or my personal favorite, si vis pacem, parabellum. If you want peace, prepare for war. And no, Keanu Reeves did not pioneer that saying. Basically, what I'm trying to get at is that there's two main ways you can take the black pill. One of which is not only a healthy but necessary mindset for survival in the real world. The other, the nihilistic, defeatist doomer, is the mental version of a cyanide tablet. Sure, it would be nice if everyone was friendly, polite, and helpful, if we all got along and everything always worked out in the end. But that's not how the world actually is, and you don't have to have been in it very long to know that. The world is harsh and very rarely forthcoming with anything other than misfortune and pain. 99% of all species that have ever lived are now gone. 99% of creative ventures fail. At least half of all the humans who've ever been born died before they reached adulthood. You get the point. There's a stark difference between using this fact as an excuse to be a slob and simply accepting that you cannot control the ocean and seeking more accurate knowledge of its currents to better steer your ship. If you've looked at the banners on any of my channels or social media pages, you'll notice that a consistent motif with me is the combination of fire and black hole imagery. The reason why is because that is how I view the ideal person. In essence, an infinitely massive, all-consuming, yet simultaneously radiant singularity. I've said before that there are 4 kinds of organisms populating all ecosystems, both natural and man-made. You have predators, prey, scavengers, and parasites, and I stand by this claim. However, what makes humans unique among the animal kingdom is that some of us have the potential to transcend this quaternary diagram by adopting a philosophy of what's called enlightened self-interest, i.e., I must help myself so I can help others, as opposed to the normal animalistic prerogative to help yourself and say, to hell with everyone else. And this is where the black pill comes in. Or, as I prefer to call it, radical acceptance. But before we go and get stuck too far up our own backsides, remember the operative word in that last paragraph is potential. Until the potentiality becomes actual, meaning until what could be actually comes to pass, then it's an abstract construct of the mind and should be treated as such. Even notwithstanding the fact that probability is a statement about human ignorance, not an actual physical state or event, recall what I said before about nature's 99% failure rate and ask yourself, what percentage of people are actually going to reach our species' maximum character potential? Once you have an answer in mind, consider what high school biology taught you about Darwinian evolution, combine it with what I've said repeatedly on this channel and abroad about how economics work on the exact same Machiavellian principles, and now ask yourself just what might lay behind those abysmal failure rates. And this is what the black pill is in my estimation. Where the red pill is the escape from the false reality of the Matrix, the black pill is the Kobayashi Maru. The former is willful consumption of truth, however distasteful, where the latter is the hard and final confrontation with the unwinnable game, the unconscionable contract, or the unsalvageable scenario. Captain Kirk may not believe in unwinnable scenarios, but we here in the real world don't have the benefit of being the main character. We can't appeal our virtue to the author of reality for clemency in our bad decisions. But be that as it may, we also needn't plead our case to anyone for refusing to sacrifice ourselves for a cause that everyone else has sensibly abandoned. We don't need to feel shame for keeping what we've earned for ourselves, for safeguarding our own skins, for valuing our own lives over someone else's abstract notion of the greater good. This is why I say the black pill isn't inherently a weakness. And while it is worth acknowledging that, just like any other form of tool, it has as much potential to be destructive as it has to be constructive if used incorrectly, it's also worth pointing out that blaming your own lack of motivation on Friedrich Nietzsche is about as logical as telling the ER that your chainsaw has gone rabid when your own foot sustains more damage than the tree. In both cases, the term for what you're experiencing is called user error, but most people don't think for the same reason they don't try lumberjacking. It's hard work, and the most they're liable to get for the effort are a legion of aches in places they didn't even know they had places. So don't despair, my fellow internet rebels. Rejoice in no longer needing to waste your own precious time and energy trying to fix things that don't want to be fixed. And in that saying, I won't make a hypocrite of myself by dragging this thing out anymore. You all know the standard YouTube bit: like and subscribe, share, join as a member, or go check out my books on Amazon to help support the channel. Feel free to check out my alternative channels and social media as well. And until next time, stay safe, stay sane, and remember, if your name's not on their will, their payroll, or their birth certificate, you don't owe anyone else a goddamned thing. Peace be upon you.